What's going on? Welcome to Tech with Sean, and today we're taking a look at an ABS open box pre-built from Newegg. Now, if you're one of my viewers, you may notice the settings a little different. This is my first video for my new house, so bear with me. I don't have everything all the way set up yet, but I wanted to get a desktop to set up in the living room, and I wanted to build one, but with the way prices are, it just didn't make sense to pay some inflated price for the card and then build the rest of the computer. So I thought I might as well give a pre-built a shot. That seems to be the thing to do these days. And I didn't want to overpay for it, so I went on Newegg. I ticked RTX 3070 on the pre-builts and sorted by cheapest, and then I bought an open box ABS Gladiator, and it has a 5600X and a RTX 3070, and it was just over $1,500, so pretty good deal as long as it works well. And I'm really interested to see what it's like. I've never really bought a pre-built gaming PC before, so let's open it up, see what's in there, and see how it runs. Okay, finally got it unboxed. Let's take a look and see what we got. Now, one thing I did notice, this cooler is kind of off axis. That foam piece they had in there went real far behind there, and when it expanded, I think it pushed the whole cooler forward. So I'm probably gonna loosen that up, remount it, and tighten it back down. Maybe put new paste on it. I don't know if you can see, but it's definitely kind of skewed. Kind of has an angle to it. So hopefully that's fine. I was worried I was going to get one of those gigabyte power supplies coming from Newegg, but it looks like I got a Gladiator power supply. Never had one of those. It's rated 80 plus gold. Hopefully it's pretty decent. Nothing fancy on the motherboard. It's a gigabyte ultra durable something. It's just, an affordable AMD motherboard. Got an alloy kit of RAM. And we got a RTX 3060 Ventus, which it's not one of the best cards, but that's pretty cool. Or I guess 3070 Ventus, my bad. That's pretty short for a 3070. But that's I have the 3080 Ventus up there, so it's pretty interesting. I'll have two of the same brand. But yeah, now I'll get it hooked up to something, and we'll see what it does. I also wanted to run through the stuff that came in the box with it, and there's something that's pretty interesting that I think you might want to see. So we got some pretty basic stuff. There's some extra power supply things, SATA cable, power cable. These are for the Wi-Fi, the little antenna dongles they screw on. You got just getting started thing, throwaway disk, motherboard, quick start. This is the alternate mounting thing. I think that they use a custom one for the cooler they have on there, so this is probably the stock mounting bracket. Got the stuff for the power supply in the case. This has just some zip ties and some handy possible stuff in there. This is like the jankiest looking mini display port to DVI adapter that I've ever seen, and the video card doesn't even have mini display port, so I'm not real sure what's up with that. And now this is interesting. So I bought this open box, right? And the graphics card, I believe, has been switched out because when you look at the PCI bracket covers, the top one is different. So I think at one point there was maybe a 3-slot card that got sent back, and then they were like, oh, now we don't have the original slot cover, so we'll put a different black one on. And it looks like there was originally an Asus Dual graphics card, and it still has all of the paperwork for the Asus graphics card in there. And there's also the paperwork for a gigabyte power supply. I bet this has one of those gigabyte P70s in it, and it blew up and it took out the Asus graphics card. That's a tragedy. And then they returned it, and then they set it back up with a Gladiator power supply and this cheaper MSI Ventus. So that's kind of like a history lesson of this computer, maybe. Okay, just got it booted up and it looks like XMP is disabled. What's going on, Newegg? Even though it's not super fast RAM, it's only some 3000 megahertz, they should still ship it with XMP turned on. And here's another fun surprise. While they didn't ship it with XMP enabled, they did ship it with an iStart pop-up toolbar, which I've never seen before, and a quick Google tells me is malware. So that's a fun surprise in your pre-built. So I'm probably gonna go ahead and nuke this Windows install and start anew, because I ain't trying to start off with some malware. So in addition to the iStart bar, it also didn't come activated. Alright, after emailing back and forth with them, I was able to get a Windows product key. And because it had that iStart malware thing, I didn't want to just do a Windows reset, because when the computer came, it was in the initial Windows setup, you know, where it's like pick your language and keyboard layout. But as soon as it, went on there, it already had that malware, so I just went ahead and nuked the original installation. I formatted the drive. I'm doing a total clean installation. So hopefully won't have any problems going forward. But I was able to get a key from them over email by sending them the serial number of the computer and my invoice and stuff. So not a very ideal solution. Really, the customer shouldn't have to worry about activating Windows or having malware, so it's pretty negative experience so far, in my opinion. We'll see how it goes after this. Well, surprise, surprise, I put in the key they gave me over email. Oh, time to give my dog his pills. Alright, still not activated. I'm still going back and forth with them, but I ran Cinebench on here, and this is the first intense thing I've thrown at this. And immediately, within seconds, we're up over 90°C. So that cooler is not cutting it for the 5600X at the settings it's running at, or it's not thermal paced well, or maybe that packaging that kind of like bent the cooler forward, messed it up, moved some paste around. But yeah, that's not what you want right now. Okay, so I took the cooler off, and looking at the chip, it seems like there is a pretty spotty job done on the paste application. There's some naked spots, and the paste itself looks pretty gross. I don't know how well you'll be able to see this, but you can see there's a spot in the center where it looks like there's some fresher paste, but it's only covering maybe half the die. And then out around the outside, there's this like gross, muddy Play-Doh looking paste that's like pushed out into the pipes. Now there is a little bit of bend to the cooler, but I'm gonna try cleaning off this paste and the paste on the chip, and then putting that cooler back on there to see if that does anything, because I have a feeling that with that shipping stuff and the bad paste application, possibly this could be a situation where just remounting it and putting some good paste on there could make a difference with our temperatures, because it was spiking up over 90°C real quick when we hit the CPU with a load. So let me repaste this and we'll see what it does. Okay, we're back. The saga continues, and right off the bat, it looks like the repaste job did wonders. It dropped about 20 degrees Celsius off the CPU. So we're sitting here running Cinebench R23, and it's in the low 70s. So that's way better than 96 degrees. Okay, I'm back. It's been a couple of days and I've gotten temperatures under control on this thing. Now, I had to do a little bit of modification before it was going up to like 80 on the GPU and thermal throttling, so I did a couple of different things. First off, you see these strips right here? These are actually kind of like the mesh that was inside these areas. So I took the front panel off and cut those out with like a razor blade, the adhesive, and then just peeled them off. And I think that lets more air through. You know, they're less obstructed at least. In addition to that, I added a 120 millimeter exhaust fan. It's not moving a ton of air, but every little bit helps. And then the thing I did that made the most difference, believe it or not, if you look in the very back, there's this area right there, and you know, it has this little metal cover on it, and taking that off let more air into the GPU in the case there, and that dropped like 5 degrees off the GPU, that itself. So there's just one screw, this thing just sits in there, and you know, you're gonna get more dust coming in, and it's not really ideal, but just not enough air is coming through here. And if you look at it, these fans are sitting like even with it, so they're not sitting like behind this sucking air through, they're just kind of pulling air in over the side there, and I don't think it's moving a ton of air. So having that all the way open really helps the GPU be able to draw in fresh air, and that alone dropped like 5 degrees off the GPU, and that made all the difference. In addition to that, I also undervolted the GPU, and I have it running at like 1875 megahertz, which that's higher than the boost would settle to out of the clock anyway, and so it runs cooler and at a higher clock speed. And then I also undervolted the CPU. Shout out to Optimum Tech. He had a little video about how to undervolt your 5th gen Ryzen chip. So I did that real quick. I set the custom voltage curve thing to 30, and that dropped a good amount off the CPU temperature. Now it's up and running. We got good temperatures, and let's see how it does in some games. Now, a system like this, may be suited to a more experienced user because it's not going to be like a MacBook where you just turn it on and everything works like it should. You saw how I struggled getting the Windows activated. The temperatures were an issue. The CPU cooler was bent and needed to be removed, repasted, and reinstalled. It was not a, plug and play experience, let's say, but the value for the hardware that you get is pretty decent. So it's hard to beat in that regard, but just go into it knowing that you might have to do some legwork on your end. And if you want to do a return or something, it might be a hassle just because Newegg isn't known for being the most customer service friendly company out there, and they own ABS itself. So I'm guessing, they use whatever parts they have, and it's probably pretty cost effective for them to make these pre-builts. But if you need a gaming PC in 2021, one of these pre-built systems might just be the way to go. You just want to make sure you know what you're getting into before you buy it. Thank you for watching along. I hope this was entertaining. Give it a like, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you in the next video.